welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and I have the honor and pleasure today to have Dr. Byron Price on with us today to talk a little bit about what he's doing in his business, what made him do the things that he's doing, what got him to that point. And so I'm super excited. Dr. Price, how are
Mm. Good to
you?
be here, Dr. Coaxum. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome, awesome. So that you know, we are those that are watching us today, they can watch us here on our TV.network, but they can also catch us on Roku, they can catch us on Fire TV,
Okay.
on Amazon. This will be rebroadcast on Tempo, which is
Okay.
one of my favorite. And of course, as they're listening to us here, they're also listening to us on WSTX Bloomberg. And
Okay.
so there's a lot of different platforms. We're all over the world. Super excited to have you on today to talk about your business, to talk about what you've been doing at BEP Consulting, what you've been doing as a professor, of course. We are professors together, so talking a little bit about that world and impacting our students every day. So looking forward to talking to you today. So why don't you tell the listening audience who you are, Dr. Price?
Okay. Well, as Dr. Coaxum shared with you, I'm Dr. Byron Price, a colleague of hers at Mega Evers College at the City University of New York. I'm a professor of public policy and administration, and I consider myself an activist scholar with a solutions agenda. You
That's
know, in,
right.
in the public policy, we formalize and formulate a lot of policy and implement a lot of stuff. But and as scholars, we research a lot and talk to each other, but a lot of times we don't implement and execute.
That's
So
right.
I try to make sure that the research that I engage to, that I actually execute that particular research after I found out and sort of research and identify where some of the problems and challenges and what are the opportunities. Then I try to execute those opportunities. And if I don't have the necessary skills, that's what BEP Consulting comes in. I bring people in that have the necessary skills and match them up with people that need those technical skills. I think that's where a lot of our communities, we have a lot of people do a lot of great work, but they don't have the technical capacity to sort of uh, keep bringing in the funding that's necessary to sort of
Right.
like keep and sustain their companies. And so for that, and I also try to integrate a lot of our students. Since the pandemic, we can't, we were kind of set back with respect to sort of like taking students study abroad to sort of kind of do some project based education and service learning. So I'm very interested in that type of stuff. But I'll BEP consulting, basically the way I got here is because I've been blessed. I've been to all 50 states in the United States. I've been to like 40 of the 54 African countries. I've been to 5 of the 7 continents. I'm gonna complete the 7 by January this year. I'm gonna get the other 2. And so one of the things I realized through my travel, you see so many sort of like issues related to with respect to we talking about climate change and talking about lack of employment and lack of opportunity, lack of infrastructure for education. And so BEP Consulting basically came out of sort of me thinking about my travels and also this lack of a college to me. I'm not talking about Mega Evers. I'm talking about just the college environment. It's just so static. It's too theory based. And I felt that I needed to do some things to try to get our students engaged in sort of like real world experiential sort of like activities and so forth.
So this is amazing. I mean, you dropped a lot of great nuggets, and I don't want to gloss over them. I want to kind of come back to them because you came out the gate talking about implementation and execution. And I think it's really important for those small businesses that are listening. One of the things I try to do, Dr. Price, on this show is to talk about some of the barriers, which you mentioned a
Mm.
lot of them. I talk about the barriers and then I go into the best practice and big ideas. But you came out the gate talking about implementation and execution, and that is more than just a big idea. At the end of the day, that's how we're going to move the needle forward. So I want to just step back a little bit because you talked about a lot of different things. First of all, I'm excited to work with you in BEP and all the wonderful things that you're doing now and the things that you're looking to do with your business. One of the things that I have had the pleasure of doing is working with you with some of the African countries and meeting with some of the leaders. And so that has been a really, really good experience. And then exposing that to our students at Medgar College and beyond, because
Mhm.
the thing that this platform allows us to do, this platform, meaning this technology platform, it allows us to go beyond the walls. It allows us to go beyond the states. And so taking all that institutional knowledge that you've already gathered around from the years, and then of course your years of service, again, thank you for your service,
Thank
taking all that information and being able to tell the business owner, look, Dr. Price is doing it, so can you. Tell our students, here is your blueprint, here's your model to follow. And I think that that is really, really, really important. That's why I'm excited to have you on today to talk to the business owners, to talk to the leaders that are looking to do exactly what you're doing. The other thing that I just need to add, and I'm going to let you jump back in, you think it, in your business, you thought it not robbery to be able to go and get the experience, right? Because we're talking about theory versus actual, we're
you.
talking about actual practice. So you went out, you got all of this experience. You are an academic maverick. I mean, you're tenured professor, you're a doctor, you have so many other degrees, but you're taking all of that information and you're bringing it to the ground, like you're
Yeah.
going to countries and you're speaking to the leaders about what they can do and how they can do it better based on your knowledge, skills, and ability. And the same thing you're doing in a classroom. And so it's really exciting to kind of to sit down with you today and talk about, well, how did you get here? Like, what
Mm.
made you come to the big city to be a professor here? Like, what led you along that trajectory? I know personally, for me, I was the first in my family to graduate from high school.
Yeah.
And so when I came to New York City, I came here with a box of vanilla wafers, the clothes on my back, and the idea that I was going to go to
Mhm.
State College. And that idea then became me on the billboard. But the reason I did all that is because I didn't see a lot of what I wanted to see
Mhm.
growing up. And so I knew that what I needed and how I was going to change my trajectory and change the folks around me, empowering and encouraging them, which is my definitive purpose in life, was to come here, was to come to New
Mhm.
York City and to be able to do all the wonderful things that you're able to do in this space. So talk to me, we got some Southern roots.
Okay. So, well, that's interesting you say that. I share a funny story with you. I think how I got to sort of like doing all this traveling and being in New York City. When I never, well, let me share with the audience. Well, I never saw my dad till I was 26 years old. That's what
Oh,
I witnessed.
wow.
I witnessed my first homicide in the sixth grade, and I went to Texas Southern University with like a couple pair of pants and a couple shirts.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's all I had, and like $35 in my pocket and so forth.
Wow.
But going back to sort of how I got here, like in the sixth grade, I was my youngest sister. She's 2 years behind me, so we went to elementary school together. So I was absent in the sixth grade for a couple of days. I probably was sick. I don't remember. But when the teacher, little sister, overheard me telling the teacher, she said, "Well, Byron Price, where you been? You been absent?" I said, "Well, I just got back from Paris." And my sister said, "Boy, you ain't been to no Paris." And so, and as I traveled, she said, "Well, you spoke a lot of that stuff into existence. When I look at how you travel now." And so I have always looked to sort of like go places. Like, I was enamored. Heard a lot about New York City, and I
That's
wanted to
right.
visit and sort of like see, what contribution I can make, because I believe, as Diogenes says, we are citizens of the world.
That's right.
And then when you read about like a lot of when you read about Marcus Garvey and his movement, you read about Malcolm X. So, when you think about New York, I know Howard University, they the Mecca, but New York City was kind of the Mecca when you think about a lot of things, the Harlem Renaissance. And so I've always been one to sort of like wanted to come and see things for myself and
That's
sort of
right.
like take advantage of opportunities. And I think, and my mindset for like a lot of the business owners, because some of them have family members, people would tell me like, "You always moving," and I say, "You always staying still." And that's why you probably taking 9 or 10 medications, because you just stuck where you are. And then people will say, "Well, when you gonna settle down, let some grass grow under your feet?" And I said, "When I die, plenty gonna grow on top."
Ooh, ooh,
And
that's
so, and my point here is that, a lot of the people that sort of try to discourage you they don't mean it. It's just many of them sort of like listen to people and they internalize what other people said,
That's
and they
right.
shut down their dreams. And I don't think people be intentional. It's just fear on other people. But I don't think
Yeah.
you can be fearful, and you have to be focused. And you're
Focus.
gonna fail. You're gonna make mistakes and so forth. But as the Dalai Lama says, when you lose, don't lose the lesson.
That's
And I
right.
placed an addendum on it, and I said, live the lesson. And so I got to New York because I wanted to come. I initially came to Rutgers after I graduated from my PhD. Then I came back up because I found that for me, the Southern living, once you've been up on the East Coast, it's kind of difficult to readjust.
Yeah.
It's the Southern living. So I came back
Yeah.
after a couple of years from down south back up to New York City.
So one thing I want to go back on, and you threw out a lot of F's: failure, focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Failure and focus. So one of the things I want to kind of horn in here on specifically is that, when people do give you their opinion of what they believe you should be afraid of, take note of that opinion, but understand that you are who you
Yeah,
are, right?
absolutely.
I always tell my students what people say about them is none of their business. It's how they feel about themselves. But
Absolutely.
more importantly, I also tell them that if they're not at the table, they're on the menu. So what I want my students to get out of that is that you should be always, like Dr. Price say, on the move. You should be
Mm,
always looking for the next. You should be always willing to put yourself in a space that you can
absolutely.
learn more, do more, and be more. And if you're not doing that, you're on the menu. Somebody's gonna be making that decision for
Absolutely.
you. It just
Absolutely.
won't be you. And so the thing that you pulled it all together by saying focus.
Hmm.
Focus on you. When people get in your ear and start saying things, you have to focus on you. I remember when I was working for the Small Business Administration, which is actually how I met my producer. Um, I used to go talk to small businesses and ask them the question I'm asking you about various best practices and big ideas. And one of the things that they used to talk to me about all the time was that they families told them when they first started their business that they needed to get a real job.
Hmm.
And so one of the things, I mean, as a Southerner, I really understand it because I remember my parents and especially my grandparents believing that if you had a government job, you had a good government
Yeah,
job.
absolutely.
If you worked for, say, one of the top corporate you had a good job with benefits.
Absolutely.
And so those are the things that they were afraid that we weren't going to get for ourselves, but they didn't know how to articulate it in that way. So that came out, as you said, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you can't do that. Oh,
Hmm.
don't do that. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying to my listening audience today, look at Dr. Price now. He
Hmm.
told you he's done been to all 50 states. He's been to 40 African countries and numerous other places. And he spoke that into existence from probably even before sixth grade, Dr. Price.
Yeah,
Sixth grade is one of the times you remember your sister Colin challenging you on it. But I'm sure you spoke that into existence a lot before then. And so, what I'm saying to my listening audience today, if you want to do something, I encourage you to plan it out and go get what you want. Whatever it is, the sky is the limit. If you ask life for a zero, you're going to get zero. If you
abs-
ask life for Paris, you're going to get what Dr. Price got. He got Paris and so much more
absolutely. Yeah.
in his traveling. And so I think that it's really important for us to kind of have everyone listening today to realize that you've done some phenomenal things. I mean, you've brought a lot of great leaders to the table to talk about, economic development. You're a serialpreneur.
Absolutely.
So you're always on to the next thing, making sure that you continue to encourage and empower. And I think one of the main things you said today, especially for our students as professors, is that it's just not theory. It's more than theory. It's the practice of it, right? And one of the things that I have an opportunity to do is I have an opportunity to take my students to visit with their elected officials, or for their elected
Mm-hmm.
officials to come into the classroom, or for the ambassador to come into the classroom. I made all my students future commissioners. So they're in the class there, and I gave them all a commission, and I made
Mm-hmm.
one a chancellor. And so when we come on class, and this is my organizational theory class, they're talking about their commissions and what's going on, and
Absolutely.
they're paying attention too,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to show everyone else that they are taking this knowledge, skills, and ability to a next level. The same thing with my local government class. I made all of them elected officials. And so these are all things that we need to, that like that theory part, that theory is great, but it's the practice that
Absolutely.
we have to make sure that we're imparting in our students, but more importantly in our business owners. And as consultants, you and I get called a lot to trying to work out the kinks of what's going on in someone's business, simply because one, they didn't focus, two, they didn't know what they didn't know, right? And then more importantly, they're in a space that they need to get out pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And that's how we're able to come in and clean up, so to speak, to make sure that they are able to expand and go to that next level.
See, and you said something, and I know I'm kind of reversing the roles on you. You kind of said somewhere when you talked about the students, where you made them co-creators of the learning environment.
That's right.
And so
That's
you
right.
empower them. And I think a
That's
lot
right.
of times, what sort of business owners have to do is sort of like create entrepreneurial employees, because the
Ah,
entrepreneurial employees are better employees. Everybody's not going to be an entrepreneur, but if your employees are entrepreneurial, that means that you're embracing ideas, because the worst thing you could do is just kill an idea one of your employees bring to you. So
that's
you
right.
want to sort of cultivate an environment where your employees are entrepreneurial in their thinking and so
That's
forth.
right.
And I have found that the organizations that allow their employees and to be sort of entrepreneurial are the better run organizations, and the more profitable organization, because then the people have invested, they feel value, because not all the time their ideal is accepted or embraced, but they're given the opportunity to bring forth new ideas and so forth.
You know what? And it's interesting that you would say that. I remember working for Chuck Schumer, and I remember one of the main things that my state director and my chief of staff said to me when they were hiring me. They said everyone here has an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They said no matter how small it is, and they said to me, don't be surprised when Chuck walks in and asks for
Mm-hmm.
your opinion on something. He said, don't, and then this was, don't bullshit them. You know, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
But if you have an opinion on something, you should definitely be, and it was the truth. Like every time that there was something major going on, they would look to me and say, well, how do you feel about that? And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to take my knowledge, skills, and ability and put it into whatever the situation was, so that they can see it from my standpoint as well as the rest of the state. So I think it's really, really important to make sure that entrepreneurs have an opinion, to make sure your employees have an opinion. As a matter of fact, Dr. Price, I take it even a step further when I'm teaching in the human resource program. When I'm teaching that class, I make my students read two books: one, How to Win Friends and Influence People,
Mm-hmm.
and two, Getting to Yes. And
Okay.
then I take that information and I use it throughout the classroom. And I'm very surprised at the end at how much knowledge that they're able to glean from those two books in everyday life. Because I make them look at them from their everyday life. I had
Mm-hmm.
one student, go around the class. I asked them, I said, well, what do you think? What do you hope to get out of this class this semester? And she said, well, I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to cuss my boss out and quit my job. I said, well,
Hey,
there will be no cussing of the bosses, and we will not quit our job until we get another one.
I know, right? I
And
know, that's
so I
funny.
walked through what her issue was, and was basically she didn't feel valued. So then I
Mm-hmm.
had to tell her, I said, sometimes you have to create value in the
Absolutely.
situation, right? So one
Absolutely.
of the things that I asked her, I said, what are some of the things that you like to do? And she said she loves spending this time on the weekends with her children. I said, well, take a picture of your children and put it on your desk, something fun that you guys are doing. And I said, when you're having those conversations with your boss, I said, I want you to look down at your picture of your children, and that's the feeling that I want you to continue to have. And I told her, I said, you're screaming and yelling
Mm-hmm.
because you screaming and yelling doesn't make the situation any better.
Absolutely.
Others are looking at you. But if you're able to maintain a certain level of professionalism, they'll start looking at him. But what ended up happening, he ended up getting fired and she ended up getting a promotion. She didn't have to quit her job. So
Absolutely.
it was really it was really interesting. But these are all the things that
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs are doing each and every day. The ones that we're consulting with, we're empowering them, we're helping them to get to the next level. But I love when you said implementation and execution.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
that's all about having a plan first and being able to implement it and execute it. You got to know where you're going, right? You can't
Absolutely.
go if you don't know where you're going.
Absolutely. Because a dog has four legs, but it walks in one road, a Haitian proverb.
Oh,
Dog has four legs, but it walks in one
it's on
road.
one road. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So that talks
interesting.
about your focus you're talking about. Because in a
That's
lot of
right.
people, they're scattered. They're all over the place. But if you think about that dog, he has 4 legs, but he walks in one road, so he's going in that particular direction. He's
That's
not
right.
letting a different leg take him a different direction. And like I tell people, and then another thing you have to do, there's a reason why some people don't make it in the future with you. And they're not supposed to, because when you think about it, these people sort of hold you back, and
That's
they're
right.
sort of toxic in the environment.
That's
And
right.
so you shouldn't worry about people that don't make it to the future with you, because
That's
some
right.
people aren't supposed to make it there with you, because you're focused on where you're trying to go. And like if you're going north and they're trying to take you south, you may just need to give them one of them little lifeboats and put them off to the side and let them like go the other direction. So,
Absolutely. And I always say that don't be afraid to let people go.
oh, absolutely.
You need the right people in the right seats at the right time. When they're no longer the right person in the right seat at the right
Yeah,
time, it's time to let them go.
it is, and that's a hard cold fact. But you have to do it with respect
That's right.
and so forth, and just think about how you couch it, where you're not being harsh, but you just have to like just do it the right way, do everything
That's
the
right.
right way.
Everybody is taught with decency and in order. Everybody is everyone deserves respect, no matter
Absolutely,
who it is, no matter what their lifestyle. The whole you should always respect each
absolutely.
and every person that you come in contact with. And so that's again why I have my students read How to Win Friends and Influence People, because what they
Hmm.
realize is that it's a holistic approach. One of the examples in the book is about an orange, and there's only one orange here. And
Hmm.
so, Dr. Price, I want that orange and you want that orange. What we doing with that orange? What would
Hmm.
you do with that orange if we both want it?
I would split it with you.
You would split it with me, which is what we do all
Hmm.
the time. And to make sure that everyone is, and so we're looking at it from an equitable, what's equity, right? But
Hmm.
really, the next thing that you should be asking me is, what do I need that orange for? I only need the peel to do my pie. I want to make a pie.
Hmm.
So I need the peel. You want the orange
Absolutely.
juice. So you can have the entire orange. I just want the peel. And so if
See,
we,
and there you go. See, you assess what you need. Me, I automatically,
absolutely,
I want to neutralize. I said, well, I just give
that's
you half.
right. It's gonna be fair.
I'm just gonna give you half because I know I can go get more. See, I think
That's
a lot
right.
of people think when they give up. See, that's the problem why a lot of people I think fail, and why a lot of people don't
That's a good
collaborate
point.
on projects,
That's a good
because they
point.
want it all, as opposed to realizing where I don't have all the strength. Like sometimes they ask you to come together on grants and so forth.
That's
But a
right.
lot of people, some business owners are so selfish. They want it all, as opposed to, well, I'm weak over here, so I should get Dr. Coaxum to do this aspect. So I give
Mhm.
us some of this here. So we all eat, and
That's
then
right.
we all put forth a great project. And then I learn a little bit from you as I learn more.
That's
I
a best
learn some things
practice.
from you.
That's
Yeah,
a that's
absolutely.
a best practice right there.
Absolutely.
That's a best practice, and it's also a solution, right? Because we
Absolutely.
all come with our strengths and our talents
Absolutely.
and our experience and our networks. Don't forget about the networks. And so
Absolutely.
we're able.
Social capital. We all have our own social network, social
Yep.
capital, and social wealth. Absolutely.
So we're all collaborating. We're all able to collaborate on these specific projects and get what we need from them, and everyone at the table can have some.
Mhm.
It's no lack. And I keep telling my business owners all the time when I'm doing they're helping them with their business plans. The first thing they say to me is they want to hold their idea close to the vest, and I say to them, then you're never going to grow it into what it needs to be, because as long
Mhm.
as you're holding on to it, you're not going to be able to grow it. And I explain to them, me and a lot of women I know, we love shoes, and we can go in a shoe store. And I promise you, we'll all go to different parts of that shoe store, and we're not taking every shoe out of that store. And so, as long as we understand, not all of us want the same thing from this, we have to get what we need from it and share the wealth, share the information. I know one thing, Dr. Price, you're really good at is sharing information, making sure if you have access to something, you make sure other people have access to it. And I do the same thing. And I think that that's really important. And that's also a best practice,
Mhm.
sharing the information, sharing the wealth, collaborating on projects, making sure that we're working together harmoniously to achieve the overall goal. And these are all some really great nuggets that you're sharing with us today. And I know it's time, Celia, time flies. The show is over. But before we leave, I want you to leave us with some final thoughts, Dr. Price,
Okay.
on what you're doing and what we can look to see from you coming forward.
Okay. One of the things I give you one of those little nuggets, what you said about them sharing their business plan, where Booker T. Washington says, do a common thing in an uncommon way. So although
Mm,
you may share your thing, you're afraid of somebody stealing your idea. But if you implement and execute your idea in an uncommon way, it doesn't matter if they have
That's
it.
right.
And
That's
so
right.
one of the things that I'm doing as I close, I'm looking at renewable energy, because when you look at they have COP28 before us, and right now the world is on track to extract and burn twice as much fossil fuels as we allowed to if we're going to meet the 1.5 degrees from the Paris Accord. So what I'm looking at is we want to phase out all of this carbon sort of like fossil fuel infrastructure. So that's what I'm doing, helping sort of bring in ecologically conscious infrastructure to
Nice.
restructure. And so that's
Nice.
what I've been doing a lot in Africa, because if we want your grandchildren and their children to have a earth, right now we're burning twice as much, and it's not going to be an earth here for them to live. So that's my focus, of sort of like bringing people together for renewable with infrastructure that is eco-friendly, and matching them up with people in Africa to sort of like help drive, because Africa is really the place to do business, in my opinion.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I want to thank you again, Dr. Price, for
Okay.
being on the show. I'm gonna have to get you to come back on soon and
Exactly.
continue to grow our students, continue to grow our businesses, and continue to keep people top of the mind with being eco-friendly. Because in order for this world to be around a long time, we have to be conscious about what's
Absolutely.
going into it. Thank you so much, and have a super amazing day on purpose.
All right. Thank you. Take
Take
care.
care.
The SETI Case 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit will host business leaders of strategic partners from both the private and public sectors industry on December 7th to the 10th. The Winter Economic Summit will bring leaders together to discuss diversifying the U.S. Virgin Islands economy to foster better international trade, commerce, capital markets, foreign direct investments, leveraging innovative technology to improve public infrastructure, building an integrated, robust tech sector, bringing thought leaders from academia and knowledge-based sector for research and development in the Americas, the Caribbean, and globally. You're invited to attend and participate and be at the Economic Roundtable to determine and to better align the U.S. Virgin Islands economy for the future. Register now at www.wintersummit.us.